13 June in the year of our Lord 2024. We're on the eve of Flag Day, which is the 14th, and there's an individual I think has brought this back into the front of the MAGA movement, in the front of the American imagination, and that would be the flag shirt proprietor and one of the most hardest workers for the MAGA movement and also for election integrity in this country, Steve Stern. Steve, why did you decide to make Flag Day such a big day? Tomorrow we got a whole show going all day long, but why did you pick Flag Day to kind of say, hey, we got to go back, think about the American flag, think about the importance of our national symbol, sir?
So we did this last year. We had 46 speakers. This year we got 24 speakers. We're going to talk about the history of the flag. And most kids that are going to school have no clue what it is, and many adults don't know it. So if you want to get involved, we expect between 500,000 and 1 million people to either watch it or open it up afterward. Go to the flagday2024.com. You can sign up for it. It's going to be on Getter. It's going to be on Rumble. It's going to be on Lindell TV and many, many other avenues that is going to be there. And we have some tremendous speakers: Steve Bannon, Wayne Root, General Flynn, John Rich, Colonel John Mills, John Solomon, Donna Fiducia, Jerome Corsi, Tom Renz, Joni Bryant, many, many others. And there's some important people that are going to be on there that talk about election integrity too, which is very important. We have a call coming up on the 26th. So we'd like to make sure everybody signs up. You can go live. You can sign up by going to the flagday2024.com. And as you know, we're doing our flag shirt as our sponsor. That's the main sponsor. We got Patriot Mobile. We have many, many people that are going to be involved in this, but you're going to see one of the most unbelievable pictures, talking, everything. It's so unbelievable. I've seen some of the stuff that we're going to do, and we've been working on this for a month. I mean, people don't understand how hard it is to do this thing, and you just don't put it up. So come on tomorrow, watch it, enjoy it. And then we have our on June 26th, our election security call with some top people that have never been on. I listened to your show this morning talking about how this is going to be the most important election we ever had. And I can admit to that because I have spoken to so many people. Yes, Doug, you had a question.
Steve, you got it. You're going to be from noon. I just want to make sure people have the time. It's from 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time until when?
To 4 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock, depending on some of the guests that we've invited, we'll have a little bit extra time on that, but it'll start at 12 Eastern time so we can get everybody on the West Coast this time to see it. And we're going to have some special things produced. I'm wearing a new shirt that I just got today, and I'm also wearing a great hat that I got from the leader of your company, and I'm proud to wear this. And behind me, you can see that we have our election security information. We have the war room in there. So many people have called me and texted me about getting involved in the Republican Party. And again, I know this morning they said protect the vote, but it's very important to go to protect the vote and get involved. And also, you know, we have 30 different counties that we've been talking about that are going to make a difference. We put all our efforts in Pennsylvania now. So we got a whole election security team in there. We got some superstars. So again, thank you very much for having me on this afternoon. And hopefully everybody.
No, hang on. Now, it just so happens, as the fates would have it, President Trump's birthday happens to also be on the 14th Flag Day. Just saying. Hey, just saying. Is there any possibility, because I know that you commemorate and you help commemorate President Trump's birthday. They did it this morning when he met with the House Republicans. Is there any chance that we're going to have a special guest that may be having a birthday tomorrow, sir?
We invited him. I won't know till tomorrow morning, but we do have a special guest, you, coming on too, hopefully. So all the good people are coming on, and we want to definitely make sure you sign up, because got to go to flagday2024.com. You've been so instrumental in helping us. We love you for that. I mean, so many people have stepped up and putting it live and are getting involved. It's going all around the country. And, you know, we want to start something where we have people that write articles all over the United States. So when you talk to me and I pass this information, we have 50 people in states that send this information out, and that's what I'm trying to do. We have a guy in South Carolina that is doing this every day. He sends out a bulletin to everybody in South Carolina. We have top people all around the country that are coming up. We're getting really enthusiastic about this election coming up, and I can see it happening. I'm the vice chair of the Broward Republican Executive Committee, and we see so many people getting involved. They just don't know what they can do, and we're putting them to work right away, knocking on doors. And, Florida has they're going to have plus 1 million Republicans. We went down from 100,000 Democrats plus to 940,000 Republicans. So we can do this in every state. And again, what we talked about Pennsylvania, if we can win Pennsylvania, we can win every state. And we're going to stop them, from the steal. And we've got superstars there. We got Steve Carr, John Child, John Farrow, Leah Hoops. We got Dave Ball, who's our head there, Greg Stenstrom. So we're doing action. I want to say again, thank you so much for having me. We have all kind of new things coming up. My favorite new thing is my cowboy hat, and I'm going to be wearing that on one of the shows. Show, believe it or not, they're putting me on Newsmax. So we're going to get this word out for everything. Everything is important for communication. And Steve Bannon, you're my hero.
It's going to be huge. No, we're going to be on War Room Getter and our Rumble, the million person Rumble network we have. We're also going to I have 6.7 million on my personal Getter. We're going to stream it there all afternoon from 12 noon to 4 Eastern Daylight Time. And hopefully President Trump, it's his birthday. We'll also be some commemorative. There'll be active discussion on voter integrity, what we have to do to win. Of course, honoring the greatest flag in mankind's history, Old Glory, the American flag. Steve Stern, you're a warrior in doing this, and you're having a huge impact. You've been doing this for years. It's really getting out there, and I think particularly young people, one of the reasons President Trump is now tied with Biden from being 20 or 30 points down with people under 29, one of the major reasons, I think, is his love of country and patriotism. It's his birthday tomorrow. We'll commemorate all of it. Steve Stern, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Don't forget to buy a flag shirt.
Flag shirt, go to the flag shirt store. It's amazing, incredible. They got great products, men, women, hats, everything dealing with the American flag. And tomorrow it's Flag Day and President Trump's birthday. The Republicans wished him happy birthday today when he met on the Hill. Great meeting there as we went through in the morning show. So we had Laura Trump on earlier today, talk about election integrity, and we've got to make sure we secure the elections in 2024, because if we don't do it this time, like we failed to do in 2020, it's the end of the republic. Tina Peters joins us. Tina, you are being persecuted for actually standing up for voter integrity and making sure that the elections were not stolen. You gave us an update the other day on your court case. I understand there's certain details you can't go into of evidence that you want to provide and things you want to provide, because I'm sure you're going to be in a tangle with the judge. But tell us about what you can talk about. There's some other elements to your case you haven't gotten into. Can you get us up to date on that, ma'am?
You bet. Thanks, Steve, for having me on. This is a really important time because what they're doing to me is meant to send a chilling effect to every election official or anyone that wants to speak out against the fraudulent election process, these machines, anything connected to the internet. So we have filed with the Court of Appeals in the 10th Circuit. And what this is intended to do is to stop this sham of a trial, because the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution of the United States says that if I am in the process of preserving election files, which are federal election files that have to be preserved for 22 months, that a state court cannot prosecute me for that. And I'll just read just a part of this. It says, the need for expedition arises from the fact that the Supremacy Clause immunity is not just a garden variety jurisdictional issue, but a creature of the federal blueprint of the United States Constitution, a product of the bounds the framers established to separate the proper spheres of the federal and state governments. And it serves to prevent states from using criminal prosecutions of such individuals to impede or frustrate the execution of federal law. So we've asked the appeal court in the 10th Circuit to hear this before July 29th. To stop this sham of a trial, Steve. They have cost the deep state actors in this case have have cost the citizens of Mesa County so much money by taking out that equipment without my approval, kicking me out of office, preventing the elected official, which was me, from conducting the elections and more. And they have spent so much money. I don't know. I would imagine the millions prosecuting a innocent person, Steve, and failing to go after someone with 26 pounds of fentanyl that the same DA let off on probation. So, we're really fighting. The freetina.com or some patriots put up a website that gives the trial dates. This is a violation of the federal law, the federal statute 52 USC 20701 that says election files must be preserved for 22 months federally. And then the Colorado revised statute, which is 1-7-802, which says that these election records must be preserved for 25 months in the state of Colorado.
So I know your attorney can't come on because they don't want to tip their hand on how they're going to pursue this. But this is what I still don't get with the evidence that you're prepared to come forward with, and things like this right here, where they actually destroyed files. Why is the prosecution of Tina Peters so important? Because you did run again with some of these charges hanging out there and didn't win. Aren't they through with Tina Peters? Haven't they blown past Tina Peters? It's just strange. Why are they risking? Because if you get to present what you say you have, if you get to present your receipts, doesn't that take down the whole apparatus?
Well, that's exactly what they're afraid of, Steve. And that's why the 10-count felony indictment, it doesn't actually talk about the real issue, which is the real issue that they have gone after me, is because I exposed what was inside these machines. And people can read it for themselves, Steve. They can go on tinapeters.us, the website, or on Frank Speech, and see the Mesa County Report 1, 2, and 3 that's never been debunked, that has, and watch Selection Code, which talks about what was done. And it's proof. It's never been debunked. I mean, these are qualified experts that examined that forensic image. And by the way, that forensic image was completely legal to do. It's a bit by bit image of the election management system. It's an unalterable image that is admissible in court. To prove what was on the election management server in Mesa County before they did their so-called trusted build, and then what was on the system after they did their trusted build. And that's where we have the evidence of them going in and actually committing felonies.
Do you believe that the Dominion people will be prosecution witnesses? Will they bring in Dominion and Smartmatic, wherever these companies are? Do you think that they will actually come in as prosecution witnesses and say, "Oh, Tina Peters is wrong. Tina Peters doesn't understand it. Tina Peters, this is over her head"?
Well, there's a lot coming out all over right now about Smartmatic, as you see with Newsmax and and Dominion. I mean, they're on their heels. They've got John Paulos lying under oath about that this equipment is not connected to the internet, which it is. And now the Colorado County Clerks Association and Jenna Griswold warns the clerks to just make sure that your Wi-Fi is turned off. Well, these are systems that are not only not supposed to be connected to the internet, but not have the capability to connect to the internet. And these can be accessed from outside sources, not just from people inside of the clerk's office. So, I just encourage to bring it on, because there's too much out there that will substantiate what I've said here, and it will also shine light.
Well,
the reason they're going after me is they want to cover up their crimes.
Well, it's interesting. If the judge lets us in, this is going to be a Donnybrook. It starts. When does the trial start?
Starts July 31st. You can go on freetina.com. It's a Patriot-funded site that people set up to let people know what's going on in the trial. It can be broadcast. The judge has ruled that it can be broadcast by KREX TV, so anyone that wants to tie into that broadcast is able to. Steve, if you want to broadcast the trial, it's open. The press is open to view the trial. And, I think the American people need to see that when the American people are paying for a sham trial to go after an innocent person, that's costing them, untold amounts of money to go after me and prosecute me. And all I did was preserve election records. And that's what they don't want you to see.
Tina, where do people go? Social media, all of it one more time.
Thank you. TinaPeters.us is my website. You can watch Selection Code. You can see all three of the reports. I encourage you to, if you can, to donate. As you can imagine, the lawfare has been incredible. And you can also reach me at Real Tina Peters on X, Getter, Gab, and Truth. So please reach out. I love you guys. I won't give up. I've been given several times that I could make this all go away. And I said, no. They said, well, all you have to do is just say you lied. And I said, but I don't lie. And so, I could have made this all go away, but we have to stand. The people out there have to stand. So, I just appreciate everyone supporting me in this. And appreciate you, Steve, for putting it out.
Tina, we love you. We got your back. We'll make sure we're on top of this day to day. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you.
Thank you. God bless you.
One of the a Gold Star mother, one of the serving her country again and with no back down. Brat, I got you on here. We'll go through some capital markets, but I got such tremendous feedback from your commentary this morning, your observation this morning, where basically the New York Times and MSNBC are saying, hey, there's weird people out there talking about godliness, that the nation has returned to godliness, and they're a scary bunch, but we know they're not many of them because we've never heard it. That was a New York Times girl talking to, to Nicole Wallace. We've never heard of it. And Nicole Wallace, and they go, yeah, these are crackpots and weirdos of godliness. It's about 85% of the country, 9% of the country, brother.
Yeah, it's 85-90% of the country. It's in our guts. That's what makes us Americans. And the great thing about the Judeo-Christian people is they love everybody else in the world. We want what's best for everybody. We've cemented that into our institutions that now the liberal globalist elites are trying to rip out. They act like they're in favor of helping out the poor. The liberals are gone, right? The Marxists are now in action. They want to take out God. They want to take out the Judeo-Christian tradition. They want to take out the nation state. And as I said earlier, the most important piece of that discussion is the New York Times, et cetera. They don't have an alternative worldview they can mention, right? They want to tear down the Judeo-Christian West. What do they propose to replace that with? Secularism? What does that mean? That's a bunch of gobbledygook. And so, most of the country, when they see that, they recoil properly because they love God, they love country, they love family, and they love the war room.
Talk to us. This is a campaign. A lot of it could come down to how the lower information voters, the lower propensity voters feel about the economy. I want to go back. You did an analysis because they keep gaslighting us with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, telling us it's never been better. There's never been more American jobs. We know there's no Americans getting jobs, but you've actually done another cut at that. Walk me through it.
Yeah, well, I take a cut at it, but Zero Hedge this week, 2 days ago, they keep repeating the same story over and over and over because it's so incredible. But the Zero Hedge guys say, the worst, most detestable, most unbelievable, most fictional job reports ever, right? They keep adding words to it because it's so ridiculous. Even the Fed chairman came out and said, these federal government job reports are not correct. And so, the establishment survey Today, which reports, the jobs, said we're up 272,000. But the household survey says we're down 400,000 jobs. That's the better one. The establishment survey just includes part-time jobs. So one person can have 4 jobs, and they report that as being 4 jobs created. All that's false. But even worse, you can talk about the intentional statistical anomalies that are carried out by bureaucrats. But what they really don't want you to see is that all net new jobs in the last year, all net new jobs are part-time. Full-time jobs have declined. That's why the unemployment rate ticked up. Right. That's another indicator that the stats are lying to you when they say there's all these new jobs, but the unemployment rate goes up to 4%. So that cannot be. And then the real bombshell is over the last 4 years, all net new jobs went to foreign-born workers, right? So no net new full-time jobs to American-born workers, right? The mainstream media does not want you to hear that. The War Room Posse knows this is your lived experience, right? There's a few stats that go along with all of this, but 40% of all Americans are unable to plan beyond their next paycheck. 46% of people don't have $500 saved for a rainy day. People in the middle class making $60,000 to $70,000 can't manage their debt. Their mortgage or their rent is half of their paychecks, way out of proportion to normality. And today a bombshell at the macro level. The Saudis are reneging on the petrodollar. That's a regime that's been around for 50 years. And so on this show, the one thing we see all the time is there's kind of stability in most of these variables in the money supply or debt or our relationships with the Saudis for 50 years. And all of a sudden, in the last 4 years, all bets are off. On the economic piece, and the petrodollar piece was a combo deal, right? It was a political piece. Making friends with the Saudis and an economic deal. Now they're making friends with China. I think the Saudis are very short-sighted. It's a huge error on their part, but that's the way they're moving because we're financially irresponsible.
Is that, have our elites ended, the post-war international rules-based order, which they get on top of us because we're America first and we want to put the nation state first and the country first, understanding that we're not isolationists, we're in the world, we will have alliances. But the underpinning of that was Bretton Woods. Has the irresponsible spending by the ruling elites here, that's what's forced the Saudis? Because you kind of can't blame them. I mean, they're not sitting there going, we don't support America. They're really sitting there going, we can't support your insane fiscal and monetary policies because you're taking the purchase power of the dollar down 20%. And what they're projecting forward and says it's going to continue to go down, right? Unless we get Trump in and Trump can put a reversal on it. But even that's going to be tough. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's right. We've showed over and over and over productivity's down for 50 years. The Keynesian stimulus is one of those things which is just off the charts, right? Our debt right now is at World War II levels without World War II, although we have 4 hot wars coming at us in the last 4 years as well. So yes, the profligate spending goes along with the Federal Reserve printing more money to accommodate that federal government spending. So it's the dynamic duo, both working against the American people. And so we've lost 20% of our purchasing power over the past 4 years, 35% of our purchasing power over the past 7 years. This is not lost on the Chinese and the Saudis, who have very smart mathematicians. I did my PhD 30 years ago with a bunch of smart folks from all over the world. They can do math. They see what's coming. They're making poor institutional choices, right? After what we just got done saying about, like Churchill said about America, we will wake up and do the right thing. The election coming up is a certain signal, and the polling data lately is just insurmountable, right? The left has crushed themselves. The liberal world order is crushing itself. When you go in against 80% of the people that believe in the Judeo-Christian tradition, and then when you make economic mistakes of this magnitude, sorry, you're going down. But you're right. The spending has put us in terrible shape. $2 trillion deficits per year, $50 trillion in debt in 10 years, right? At the end of this budget cycle, the Saudis see that $50 trillion in debt. and they know we can't pay it off. So they know right now, the Fed will never say this, right? But they're going to have to run inflation to pay off that debt, right? So they're paying off that debt with cheaper dollars. That's what's coming our way. That's why they're completely comfortable right now at 3% or 4%. And after the election, they'll show their hand even more.
No, we talked to Philip Patrick earlier, so this is serious. Dave Brat, where do people go to get all your economic charts, all your economic analysis on social media?
Yep. Thanks, Steve. Brat Economics on Getter. And then I'm at Liberty University going around the country giving talks. I'll be with Colonel Alan West down in Dallas, July, going down to Naples to meet some friends, going all over Michigan, Pennsylvania. So if you want me, just email me at Brat Economics on Getter, and I'll come to a city near you with all the charts from the War Room. Thank you very much, Steve.
Amazing, sir. Great hit. The theologian and philosopher in the morning and the hard-nosed economist in the afternoon. You've got range, brother, as they say in baseball, or acting. Thank you, sir.
Follow the Oxford Don. Keep it up, Steve.
Thank you, brother. We talked to Philip Patrick earlier. This is the end of the dollar empire. It's not going to happen overnight. But we've had people that have been with the dollar for a long time, like the Saudis, are saying this is not working for us. Why? These out of control policies on the spending, and then the Federal Reserve backing it up. Birchgold.com/Bannon. Go find out, read free, the end of the dollar empire. All this nonsense, all this spin, they can't handle the truth.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
I just want to make sure, Philip Patrick on earlier, we've got, full access. I want to make sure people understand you have access to Birch Gold. You have access to the senior people there. So go to birchgold.com/Bannon. You get all the free content we have up there. It's tremendous. They have tremendous content also. You have to understand kind of the economy of the world now. We call it macroeconomics. When we say macro, that's what that means. What's the world's economy doing? What inflation, production, all that, markets, bond market, stock market. And in that, you kind of get a sense of, hey, directionally, where is this thing headed? Micro is to then look at the microeconomics of a transaction or what it means for you. And this is why they're perfect. They have all these tax deferred instruments, very sophisticated about that, particularly if you're starting to think about or worry about your retirement, how precious metals fits into that. You've seen the spread between the drop in purchasing power of the fiat currency that's called the U.S. dollar and gold. Somebody that sees it is the Saudis. Now, what we said, and we've said earlier, we're trying to source that besides just rumors and people talking about it. We do know, if you talk to folks on Wall Street, not just the Saudis, but all the BRICS nation, what we call the global South, that control the resources in the world, are spending a ton of time on this very topic because they understand that the business model of the United States is not sustainable. That's why President this is one of the top 3 things he's going to think about. People put that under the heading of economy or inflation, however they want to do it, but that is getting straight kind of the business model of our government, which is not sustainable right now. We're spending essentially $1 trillion every 100 days, running up these massive deficits that didn't have to be financed short term with the sale of T-bills and notes and things. And it's just it's not sustainable. These interest rates now are blowing, they're embedding themselves, so they're not going to come down. That's where you've seen the drop in the purchasing power of the dollar. So you've got access, use it. Even if you don't make a decision that you're going to use Birch Gold, just go and use it. And then you've always got that in case you change your mind or something else comes by. Say, hey, and go back to the Birch Gold guys. Birchgold.com/Worm. If you had made this move a couple of years ago, particularly vis-a-vis the drop in purchase power of the dollar, you can do the math. It would have been quite smart of you to take action at the time. Don't think that's played out, because the sustainability of this business model is pretty much in your face. It's not sustainable. It's one of the President Trump's biggest selling points. I got Harnwell on here, and I've got Harnwell on here about tying together 16 Brexit to the Trump victory and what's happening today in Europe. But I've got to, because Ben Harnwell is a man that has sacrificed his life for pushing forward the project of the values and civilization of the Judeo-Christian West. He does it from Rome. I want to play this clip that we played earlier today on the show and get his response.
The core of the idea expressed to Mr. Alito that the country must fight the decline of Christianity in public life goes beyond the questions of bias and influence at the nation's highest court. An array of conservatives, including anti-abortion activists, church leaders, and conservative state legislators, has openly embraced the idea that American democracy needs to be grounded in Christian values and guarded against the rise of secular culture. They are right-wing Catholics and evangelicals who oppose abortion, same-sex marriage, transgender rights, and what they see as the dominance of liberal views in school curriculums. And they've become a crucial segment of former President Trump's political coalition, intermingled with the MAGA movement that boosted him to the White House and that hopes to do so once again in November. The only thing I'd add to that perfect articulation of where we are is, and they're going to decide whether or not Donald Trump has, quote, absolute immunity in the criminal cases and charges against him.
Well, this idea of returning America to a place of, quote, godliness, this is not language that I think many Americans might be familiar with or thinking would be a legal principle, right? So it's indicative of the entirely new moment that this country is in, especially since the overturning of Roe. I mean, our book, The Fall of Roe, the subtitle is The Rise of a New America. And it gets at these questions about what is this conservative Christian movement that was so powerful that so many people didn't see that led to the overturning of Roe? Where are they going next, right? And what Alito, by talking about godliness, was playing into was the language of this entirely, this right-wing conservative Christian movement that really, as we show in our book, thinks about the questions of democracy in an overarching question, but an overarching story of being within the kingdom of God. For many of these Christians, democracy, the story of America, is just a small story in the broader story of the kingdom of Jesus.
Ben Harnwell, the shock that we talk about godliness, or one of our central tenets of our movement, is to make sure that we're a God-centered movement and we have the fear of the Lord, and that this is absolutely the beating heart and central element of our movement to save the Judeo-Christian West and our civilization in the New Jerusalem that is the American Republic, sir.
Amen. Well, just listening to that lady talk, the thought strikes me that, if I can say this, I think being American really is more than just having an American accent. You can hear someone talk, they can be like a family member or a neighbor or something. You can hear them talk. And the more they tell you about what they think and what they believe, what they think and believe to be the case, the more you realize, you listen and think, we inhabit absolutely different worlds. Perhaps, not even the meaning of words. There's not even the common denominator over a commonly accepted meaning of words anymore. It's not even geographically it overlapped anymore. There are people, it's a very, very acute problem in the United States, but it's right throughout the West as well. You have people living in the same country, and that is probably the passport, the citizenship. That is the only thing that people now have in common. And part of this, Steve, is because of the full frontal attack that within the education movement, really from the 60s, to undermine the historical, a commonly accepted historical narrative, which is part of a cultural sense of belonging. And they did you can see here, listening to this lady talk, they've done a very, very good job on that. So you have basically this generation, what Z is it? There's really, it's the same language, same accent. But apart from that, the progressives have really worked very hard at creating a new, I think she said like a new people. Well, she herself, ironically enough, and oblivious to the fact, she herself is a representative of this new people that has been created within the United States of America. And it's difficult to know how, I think this is what Samuel Alito was actually trying to say. It's difficult to know how this is going to be resolved, if it is possible to be resolved. And that's an open-ended question, isn't it? We all have our ideas of how this can be resolved, if it can be resolved. But of course, the founding fathers of America were absolutely clear on the importance of morality, of piety, of religion, of the Christian religion. They're absolutely clear. I mean, it's just like being a historical whitewash to suggest that probably Jefferson himself was the closest to being a deist, but the majority of them weren't deists. They were Christians, explicitly observant Christians, and very much motivated by their Christian faith. And after, we haven't even arrived at the 250th anniversary yet. And whether that nation that they bequeath to posterity is going to exist in anything other than just simply a name is going to be something we're going to find out. I think what happens in November, Steve, of this year will be pretty determinating as to the final answer of that question.
Our biggest ally 250 years ago in that revolution were the French, and the French had gone through the differences in the American Revolution. The French Revolution could not be clearer, although they were our ally and quite frankly helped finance our revolution. Now you see France, which goes out of its way to be a secular nation. What's happened in the last 72 hours is pretty extraordinary in France. Walk us through that. Walk us through what's happening to our oldest ally.
Yeah, your oldest ally. Well, let's just reel back a little bit. I think America, at its founding, at the Revolution, and France had a common interest that threw them in together. And that was sort of the anti-British Empire motivation that made them natural allies historically. But just because I think, for chronological reasons, I don't necessarily think there is a great deal in common. By the way, I don't think there's a great difference, a great commonality between France and America culturally, or politically, or even historically. There was just that common need, common enemy of the greatest naval power at that time, the UK. And that's I can understand that. I can understand the motives for that. And England, of course, was doing its best to undermine. There was a war, right? It did do its best for some time to undermine the success of the 13 colonies in exactly the same way, by the way, that the European Union has been trying to undermine Great Britain after Brexit. Look, what I found most amusing, really amusing, if we're talking about the common relationship between France, the common historical relationship between France and America, was the fact that Macron and Biden were there together in Paris, I think, a week ago, right, saying about how much they have in common. Little did they know, Steve, that this 72-hour-long series of earthquakes and aftershocks and tremors that was about to hit France is equally, I think, in the works over obviously not 72 hours, over a longer play now, five months away. The same dynamics there is a genuine, authentic parallel to note. And I thought, the timing couldn't have worked out better, Steve, that there they were saying, great allies, great historical friends and all the rest of it. The very populist, nationalist, if I can use the word, insurgency, which was about to strike at the ballot box, that same anger, the same dissatisfaction, that same disgust, that same yearning on behalf of a political people, of a people to have a political class that is confident enough to put their interests first. Now, that is the same in both nations. And I think, again, coming to what I was saying before, in November, we're going to see that parallel a lot more closely. As you say, in the same way that Brexit really led the way to the Trump victory, by I think, if none other, by actually illustrating that the power of the sociopathic overlords isn't absolute. It isn't preordained. That people's if they take confidently their own agency in their own two hands, they can become protagonists in their own destiny once again. And I think that confidence that the UK showed Brexit very much was a fillip towards sort of, if you will, it gave Americans a sense of permission in order to do exactly the same for the same sorts of reasons they're in the American context in America. And exactly in the way that those two things are related, I think there's a parallel between what happened in the European Parliament last weekend and what is going to happen in America in November. It's exactly the same connection.
You talk about it's not. Talk about it's not preordained. One of the things, we're a show for the activists, show for people to actually use their agency and put it all on the line and actually fight this. The driving force of the MAGA movement, the deplorables, America First, all of it. But I tell people, as bad as it is here, and maybe the weaponization of the law has started to be a lot worse. But in France, it's pretty tall odds. I mean, culturally, the populist right has been completely, you don't see them on TV. It's literally every cultural institution. Macron is the flower of that apparatus. And that apparatus puts the populist right, the nationalist right, as essentially not neo-Nazis, but full Nazis. So to overcome this and look like you get actually in dissolving parliament, now people think Macron made a huge mistake, and Le Pen and these guys, Front National or National Rally, and Bardella, her new guy, and the alliances they're making could actually win is shocking. But aren't their odds actually longer than our odds?
In what sense, Steve?
In just the sense that they have full and total control. The French media, the French cultural institutions, the way the government and the bureaucrats and the massive apparatus, they perfected probably as well as MI5 and MI6, the deep state. Now, they look like they haven't weaponized as they have against us legally, where they're throwing people in prison. But in France, when you're over there and you're with the Le Pen and these other people, they're the mainstream of a business, of all the major, elite universities they've got. They dismiss the populist nationalist right as essentially Nazis, and they're kind of othered out of society.
So you're basically saying, wasn't it more difficult to achieve this in continental Europe than the Americans? There were two factors.
Well, particularly in France. Particularly in France, I think even more than Italy, and maybe harder in Germany. But in France is such a shocker, much more than I think in England. That's why I think what's happened in the last 72 hours has exploded. You've seen these young people embracing Le Pen. She's treated like a rock star. And I think the French establishment is in absolute shock, worse than the establishment here, but they don't verbalize it like Donny Deutsch and Nicole Wallace.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So yes, in one sense, there are two factors here that I would pull up. They go in different directions. In one sense, yes, it is much more difficult in Europe to have affected this revolution that we saw last weekend. This manifestation of this undercurrent towards nationalism. More difficult because in continental Europe we don't have culturally the importance of personal freedom and liberty, self-reliance. As being virtues, as is in the American DNA. You're basically when you're talking to continentals, you're basically talking across the political spectrum of people who look to the state to pretty much give them everything. And that really goes against the Anglo-American DNA really abrasively. We don't like it. We don't like government telling us what to do. We don't like, as it were, getting on, like in the black and white war films, getting on the train carriage and someone coming along saying, "Papers, please." That thing just gets under our skin, drives us crazy. Europeans can't lap that up fast enough. They love it. So to see this revolution take place in Europe, yes, it is an indication of as it were, a taller mountain that has been climbed. On the other hand, and as I said, there were two factors. So the one, you have the American culture, which I think is the most superior culture in the world, for the reasons I was outlining. On the other hand, they have proportional representation as there, for example, in the European Parliament, and that was able to show, you have 20, as we said the other day, we have 25% of the electorate now across the European Union that is basically in one of the two nationalist camps, either the pro-Atlanticist or the anti-Atlanticist. nationalist camps. And that is manifestable because you have proportional representation. One of the virtues of the first past the post system, which we have in the UK and also in America, is that it's why like in England we've never had really dictatorship as they have in pretty much every single European country. It's because the debate was always taking place broadly enough in the centre. Of course, that brings its own problems to it. So you have those two factors, I think, Steve, that go in opposite direction. Of course, they now might start to be, at least here in the European context, I think the virtues of proportional representation have been a very great asset to seeing the anger and disgust that is latent in the European people. That same anger and disgust is latent in the American system, but it's just locked out because of the electoral procedure that you have in America.
We have to bounce, Ben. Where do they get your social media?
Thanks, Steve. Getter at Harnwell, my favorite social media platform. Great comments, great interaction, great engagement.
Thank you very much. Thanks to people over Getter. Just incredible. Go read the comments in Ben's post. It's just amazing. Best engagement I've ever seen on all social media. Thank you, brother. Ben
Thanks,
Harnwell.
Steve.
Lou Dobbs is next. We'll be back live at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow morning in the War Room. One of the things we're helping to do, as you know, is build the alternative economy. To our sponsors are people that share your values, and they don't hate you or hate your values. They support you and your values. We ask you to go check out and make sure those services work for you, because that has to happen. But to give them a check, Patriot Mobile being a great one. The team, Glenn Story and the team at Patriot Mobile have done more to support the MAGA movement on their PAC and their not-for-profit side in the state of Texas and throughout the country. Glenn will be up in Detroit this weekend. So go check out patriotmobile.com. They got this new Patriot One. We get alternatives for the telephone, for the mobile services. Just incredible. Also, SLNT Silent. They get the Faraday bags, slnt.com/Bannon. The Faraday bags make sure the government, like the DOJ and FBI, can't listen to you. And of course, Jace Medical. It started anti-Chinese Communist Party. It's led into the fact that, hey, your medicines aren't available. They got to be. Go to jacemedical.com. Lou Dobbs, the great Lou Dobbs, is next. We're back here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. See you back in the War Room.